Hi, my name is Karen Hanley, Senior Solution Architect here at RKLE Solutions. This video is going to take you through general navigation, how to run reports, shortcuts, how to create views, tips and tricks, and getting help while using your Sage Intacct system. I encourage you throughout the video to pause it and go ahead and try some of these things on your own. Navigating Intacct, an important thing to note is that everything flows into the general ledger from your subledgers. The only exception to that is cash. If you enter a general ledger journal, the cash will post back out to the cash management module and it will appear in your bank reconciliation. Symbols within Intacct, a red asterisk means it's a required field, and a blue hyperlink means it's going to take you somewhere. So it might take you to a drill down of what you're clicking on, or it might take you to an edit screen. The blue plus sign means you're going to add a new record or transaction. You'll see those blue plus signs on your main menu. When you click on it, it is to add a new vendor or add a new bill. It does not expand into folders. So just remember, the plus sign means add. The way that the menus are all designed is the last column in every module will always be a list of your reports. The first column is going to be a list of your applications, and the middle two columns are going to be all of your tasks and your lists, the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. All of the transaction screens are set up with a header and lines. There's one header to multiple lines. The reason this is important to note is when you're creating custom views or custom reports, you need to know where the data is being stored, if it's stored at the header level or the line level. This slide here is for your reference, and it explains what the different buttons do. Date fields, when you're running a report, you have an option of either selecting a reporting period, such as current month or year to date, or you can put in a specific date range. It is important to note that the date range will always override a reporting period. When you're selecting a reporting period, it's important to understand the difference between things like current year or current year to date. When you see to date at the end, month to date, quarter to date, or current year to date, it means it's using an as of date and it's going to cut off. If you say current year, you are going to get the entire year. Another important thing to note is if you have a fiscal period that is different than a calendar period, that you need to make sure that you select fiscal in the drop-down. Shortcut keys are a helpful way to get through the system a little faster. One of my favorite is on a date field to type in a T for today. You can also do shortcuts to get to the first day of the month, the last day of the month, the first day of the year, or the last day of the year, simply by typing in the first or last letter of that word. This slide here is for reference to give you shortcuts using your keyboard. Lists and views. All of Intacct screens are created with a list of values where you can view the data, and you can also filter and sort data based on your needs. I'm going to do a short demonstration to show you how to use these powerful features. On the vendor screen, I have a list of vendors. Clicking on any of the headers, you can resort the data by that heading. You can also filter the data. So if I wanted to find all vendors located in Plymouth, I'd start typing in my city, and it does a begins with. Now let's say I'm not exactly sure the name of my vendor, but I know that it has the name corporate somewhere in there. If you type a %, which is the wild card, and then type a series of letters, it will do a contains, and it's going to look for any vendor that has COR anywhere in the name. Does not have to be at the beginning. So the % is a wildcard. Otherwise, it always acts as a begins with. There's also some helpful buttons up at the top. Here we have clear all filters. And then if I go back to the left under all, this is my list of views. So right now I'm looking at all vendors. You can create various views and you can save them. As an example, I have a view created for 1099 vendors. Manage views is where you can create a view. If you click on Create New View, it's going to take you through a wizard that's going to allow you to pick all of the fields that you would like displayed on your list view, allow you to filter and sort on that data. Include one time is to include one-time vendors if you have those designated. Include inactive vendors. Display hierarchy would be used if you have parent-child relationships between the vendors or customers or items that you're looking at. Include private is to include vendors that were created at the entity level. And then the advanced filters will allow you to filter on multiple things at the same time. If you forget that % wildcard, this is a handy way to come in and say, I want a vendor name that contains COR, which will do the same as the wildcard. So the advanced filter can be helpful if you forget your options, and it gives you additional options such as greater than, less than, or one of my favorites is to look for null values. And then again, I can clear all of my filters. Contacts is an important concept in Intacct. Think of it as a big Rolodex. And on your desk, you have a Rolodex of all of your customers, your vendors, your employees, and they all appear in this one list. When you create a new customer or a new vendor, Intacct will automatically create a contact record for you. You can also create additional contacts. You can have an unlimited number of customer contacts or vendor contacts, and you can attach them to the customer or vendor records. Duplicating a session. Many of us wear many hats, and so it's very important to be able to navigate throughout Intacct and not have to stop what you're doing. Let me show you a quick demo. If I'm in Accounts Payable looking at my vendors and the phone rings and I need to quickly move somewhere else in Intacct, at the top of your screen on your tab in your browser, if you do a right click and then duplicate, it just logs you into Intacct again on a new tab. The other way to create a new tab is the little padlock icon that's in here. Just drag this up and drop it, and this prevents you from having to log in multiple times. We also have shortcut keys that you can use, and we even have a shortcut key if you're working on a Mac. Navigating within your browser, oftentimes while you're doing your training sessions, you're going to hear your instructor say, refresh your browser. This will often happen if somebody has updated data in another session of Intacct and you're not seeing that updated data. So if you're not seeing what you expect, always hit refresh your browser, which is the icon up in your toolbar, or you can do a Control F5. Navigating Intacct using calculator controls. This is a handy little feature that allows you to quickly add up information while you're doing data entry. As an example, I'm entering an accounts payable bill for office supplies, and I want to divide the bill between multiple departments. When you're in any amount field, if I start typing a value and then hit, for example, the multiplication on my keyboard, it brings up a little calculator where I can say, I want to take the amount of the office supplies and divide that between my different departments. So I'm going to multiply times 0.33%. When you hit the enter key, it drops the value into the cell. It does not save that tape, but it's a handy way to quickly compute numbers. You can also do addition, subtraction. And again, when you hit enter, it will drop that value into the cell for you. If you get an error message, always be sure to use the Go Back button in the error message itself. If you use the Go Back button in your browser, you may end up going back to the previous screen that you were in, and you may lose the data entry that you're in the middle of entering when you got the error message. Preferences. Each user can set up their own preferences. One of the most important thing in preferences is how many records will appear in a drop-down list. Let me demonstrate. I'm looking at my list of vendors, and over in the right-hand corner, you'll see I have 2 pages, and it's only showing me 20 vendors at a time. To get to preferences, click on your name in the upper right-hand corner, go to My Preferences, and to change the number of records that appear in a drop-down list, scroll down until you see Personalize Page Defaults. The first option here says Records per Page. We recommend that you set this to the maximum, which is 999, which will show you almost 1,000 records per page. There are other values you can change in here as well, based on the number of records that you want to see in various screens. My Preferences is also where a user can do things like update their security questions, update their password, or determine their home page when they log into Intacct. Creating shortcuts in Intacct, on your menu, If you hover over a menu option, you have the ability to mark it as a favorite. Let me do a quick demonstration. If I go to the Accounts Payable menu and I hover over a menu option, you'll see a star icon. If I click on it, this first of all gives you a visual cue when you open up that module of the things you go into most frequently. What it also does is over here to the left of my home icon, it gives me a star icon that will give me the shortcuts for each of my modules. So if I go to Accounts Payable, I now see the options that I go into frequently for that module. In your list of applications, you can also drag and drop and move around your menus into an order that is easiest for you to navigate. So let's say that Accounts Payable is something that I go into all the time. I can take that menu and just drag it up to the top. So you can just drag and drop and create your own order of your menus. The flow chart is available in all of the modules by clicking on the Overview option, and this will bring up a graphical representation of the menu options in that module. Intacct help is fabulous. We love our help. We find help to be most helpful when you go to the screen where you actually need the help. As an example, if I go to Accounts Payable, Bill Entry, click on Help and Support, and say Help on this page, it brings me to help on creating a bill. If you scroll down, I can see everything that I might need to do from this screen. In some places, you'll also see a question mark on a particular field. This will give you help on just that specific field that you're on. If you're on the main menu and you go to Help and Support, Help on this page, you'll be brought to the General Help where you can go navigate to where you need the help. This concludes this presentation on navigating Sage Intacct.